So the same way that with Google search, we're grouping keywords, and then with our ad groups, we're making them really small, tightly focused ad groups. And in any one account, I might have 100 ad groups because we want to break everything down into as specific as possible with still having enough volume, of course. So you take the same structured approach over to Facebook, only the targeting is totally different. And so instead of grouping people and testing them by these small groups of keywords, we're breaking people up by demographic. And so Facebook is pretty prolific. It's amazing how much detail we can get now. And sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive. I'll give you an example. So for a shoe company, there was this certain line of shoes that we were selling, or that the client was selling. And so in advertising to them, it's intuitive. So you'll start with things like people that like fashion, and then layer that with people who've purchased online in the past whatever days, or people who shop at the actual stores that sell the shoes, and so on. All the very intuitive things. And then we'll group it up. And from there, we might segment it down to, okay, they shop at Target, and they like fashion, and they're 25 years old. And then we'll test that against, they shop at Target, they like fashion, and they're 26 to 34, and so on. So we'll do different age groups because we want to see how all the different demographics perform against each other. But we don't want to go too small because then we're not going to have enough meaningful data to know anything. That's one way to group it. So you can cross-layer these demographics to make hyper-targeted audience. You can layer behavior plus their demographic plus their interests plus their associations. I'll just keep going until Facebook's like too small, or if I run it and I'm getting hardly any people, then I'll back out a little bit. One of the things we found for this one line of shoes was that people who liked Taylor Swift specifically and people who liked Florence and the Machine had really high conversion rates for these shoes. It's like, well, what does music have to do with shoes? Nothing on the surface, but if you can target people by their interest, even though it's not that product or something directly related to that product, but you know that it segments them into this super defined group of people that are going to love your product, then that's what you go for. Yeah, so this is going to depend on whatever the audience itself is. I always go after hot buttons. Hot buttons are like little triggers that get people to click on the ad, click through the web page to the web page. And so I always break things up. I'm looking for what resonates with people and what has the most prevalence among those people. So, for example, marriage helpers. And for Christian women in the household income brackets between $75,000 and $100,000 annual, they have hot buttons that are with women. If your husband is addicted, here's how to talk to him. Another one could be, if you feel isolated in your marriage, here's what to do. Another one could be, if you feel controlled and berated by the man you married, here's what to do. So we have these pain points. So we always want to address some type of pain point or trigger that's going to get their attention, and then we can test those against each other. As you know, I am all about the survey funnel. Whatever the pain point is, if they're frustrated because they're stressed and let's say they've contacted a couple realtors and they're so confused and frustrated, and the ad references that, if they don't have a page that speaks directly to that, then we're going to need one, of course. And then from that page, we want to make it really simple on what to do next. And what we're going to want to do on that page is speak to that frustration and simplify the process. Get them to take a deep breath. If your client gets to your page and goes, yeah, I feel like in this case, that's probably what we'd be going for if a good client for them is someone that's stressed. So it really depends on your market and how formal should the messaging be based on who we're targeting And if we're targeting them in the news feed, we always want to be as authentic as possible to sound, we don't want to sound like we're trying to trick them that we're a company. But we also want to talk to them the way that we know they connect with. I would start with the client. They should have a good understanding of their starting point. And if they say, oh, we don't know, then I would interview them. And so for a bigger company that has a customer service department, what I've done is I've called customer service and I interview one of their top reps. So like for Griswold Home Care, they had a customer service person who's been there forever and gets really good feedback from clients and stuff. So I called her. Okay, what are some of the people that you feel like you hear from? Is it men or women? You'd be like, oh, it's mostly women. I'm like, okay, are they more like in their 20s or 30s? And then she'll answer me that. And then I'll say, now, are they feeling stressed financially when they call? And she'll be like, yeah, well, some are and blah, 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 and some aren't, and here's what they're feeling. I'm like, okay, so when they're feeling like pressure that they're spending time with their mom who's aging, and why can't they care for their mom themselves? And she's like, well, because then all their time spent together is now more like a burden. And like, okay, so is this person feeling kind of guilty maybe? So it's really just a conversation with the client where we're going to pull that out. If they really have no idea and they can't even answer those questions to start that conversation, then I would not want to work with them ever.
Right.
They might not be able to define them formally or have it written out in some business plan. That's fine, as long as they know who their audience is and they're providing value to that audience. They might not know they know. That's why you gotta, the same way like you're interviewing people on content.
Yeah.
If they don't know how much they know. For example, with the game company, we started with a certain demographic for this game Tapple, which is it was posed as like a family game, fun for the whole family. No, it was called their tagline was fast word fun for everyone. And then as I started out in the demographics, I narrowed in on moms because I started noticing, oh, women with kids outperform any other demographic. So when I start narrowing it down on women with kids and I'm doing different messaging on like whether it's fun, it's educational. And so you keep refining the messaging and testing different messaging against each other. So for example, in that one, after a few months, it came down to this phrase that was, kids have so much fun they don't know how much they're learning. And then I could not beat that phrase for months after that, and I tried all different things. And another tagline that was really good in that audience was fast word fun for the whole family. And so they actually changed the tagline on that box because they realized that their audience was even more specific than they knew. They didn't realize that it was mostly moms who were buying it because it was helping their kids learn, and it's fun for them too. So the client often doesn't know how the specifics that we're going to get, but that's fine. We do need to have somewhere to start. That's the main difference, is the targeting. In both cases, we're constantly testing or optimizing. I recently stopped using the word testing because John, the president of USAopoly, was like, well, why are we still testing things? Yeah, so it's not that we're still testing. It's that we should be constantly optimizing because the market changes. So we never want to just, okay, this ad's getting this click-through rate. It's pretty good, so we'll just leave it. No, like we always want to have at least 2 ads to see which one is better. Or if we're still testing demographics and we have an ad that we know works pretty well, then we'll have the same ad, but then we test different demographics with that ad so that we can get good data about those demographics. And always, we're going to get insights from that about their demographics that's more specific than they started out with. And that's part of the cool thing. That's why I love what I do, because you learn so much about people. Because you're constantly putting this stimulus in, and then you get a response. Stimulus in, response, and it's like immediate feedback.